Welcome to the Amazon Legends podcast, where we have real stories about making it big on Amazon. Our guests are CEOs of large companies and entrepreneurs who became powerful sellers, also experts specializing in helping sellers, and both former and current Amazon employees who will give us an insight from behind the scenes. Here's your host, Nick Urison.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Amazon Legends. Today, we're doing something unique. Today, I have not one, but two guests. They work as a team, and of course, they cover different aspects of the operation. So we're going to hear from both of them. So frankly, this is my first time having two guests. So you'll just have to bear with me. So without further ado, first guest is almost a decade in e-commerce, and she's currently the director of e-commerce at Parched Spirits Company. She's also passionate about dogs, as she runs a foster home for rescue dogs and a women's soccer fan. And everybody, meet Harpe Neal. Welcome to the show, Catherine.
Thanks, Nick. We're excited to be here. Thanks so much.
So my second guest has led innovation at Diageo for almost a decade and moved on to innovation consulting, working with startups. She's the co-founder of Parched, that is a non-alcoholic spirits and cocktails. And she leads marketing and innovation, was surprise, surprise, since she's been an innovation expert. So everyone meet Byrne. Welcome to the show, Isla.
Thank you, Nick. So happy to be here.
So, my guests have actually discovered an untapped market, and they have approached it in a unique way. Nothing to do with data, nothing to do with the things that we usually talk about, keywords and things like that. So Isla, tell me what that untapped market is, and what is it that you're doing unique?
Well, Nick, we're really trying to offer more solutions for people who feel socially isolated. And we'll get more into the specifics of the product shortly. But we're really trying to open up more occasions to invite people to get together, to reconnect, and join each other in celebrating life.
So as far as reconnect, so how are you doing that?
Well, we make a beverage, a non-alcoholic canned cocktail and array of spirits that are non-alcoholic, but they are built with the same craft, care, and credibility as the alcohol products that you see on the market today. We want to invite more people into the idea of socializing with each other. And for so long, many people have been left out in the cold, as it were. They have had to subsist with substandard products, juice, soda, water. And we wanted to bring a better quality, good for you cocktail and spirit company to the market.
So I opened with untapped market. So first of all, how did you discover that, and what makes it untapped? What is the characteristics of it?
As you mentioned in the intro, Nick, I've spent a decade working for the biggest alcohol producer in the world. They produce globally the biggest brands that are familiar to many people, but all alcoholic. And the data is showing us that about now, today, most recent data is showing that 40% of the US population are choosing not to drink alcohol. That number has increased over the last couple of years. Pre-pandemic, it was already moving upwards from about 32% of the US population. And it's really about recruiting new consumers who are looking at their way of life, their lifestyle, and making healthier choices, whether it's dairy, meat alternatives, trying to lead a more plant-friendly array of products in their life. And we wanted to also offer consumers alternatives to alcohol. We aren't saying that alcohol is bad, but it can be moderated and consumed in a more healthy, more conscious, full way. And we tried every product on the market. This is a brand that is built out of a very personal passion for myself, but also my co-founder. My co-founder found himself at a point in life where, due to a medical situation, he was unable to drink alcohol for the rest of his life, having worked in alcohol also for a decade. We believe that the product out there were not of a sufficient standard. They didn't give us the taste experience that we wanted. We wanted the provenance. We found the great wine and in mezcal. And we wanted also to replace the ethanol with something good for you. So that's the white space, the untapped market. We thought we could offer something better to consumers.
So, Catherine, operationally, since you run the operations, how do you actually go about reaching out to this untapped market? Because it's not it's not what you usually find. First of all, your typical demographics, they go by age, income, gender, and things like that. So that's not how it is. You can't do anything there. In addition, if you go online, then we look at keywords and things like that. So this is not really the case. So how do you go about actually penetrating into that market?
Well, we're not really, I mean, as you mentioned, demographics, this kind of spans every major demographic that you would look at for a product, whether it's a CPG product, a food and bev product, even up into software and SaaS products, where people looking to go to a no alcohol or low alcohol, just a more moderate lifestyle. We're finding that that's across all ages, across all the span of gender, across, like it's not really nailed down in any one key demo. And that's surprising to me as an elder millennial. I would think that would really be concentrated in kind of the Gen Z demo, but we're finding it everywhere, that people are kind of looking to just be a little bit more intentional with their lifestyle choices. And I don't know. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Something you just said really sounded funny to me. Elder millennial. I mean, there's millennials are young. I mean, elder. Now you have an elder millennial. Oh my God.
Yeah, we kind of split that demo in half. I just turned 33, so I am kind of in that really in that top half of in that top half of the millennial group. There was a bit of a fracture in that demographic, I believe. And but you know what? Hey, I say it on purpose. I'm proud to be a millennial. I know we're the butt of everyone's joke, or were for a bit, but no, I love it. I think it's a great space to be in.
Yeah, I mean, I stopped at millennial. I don't understand the Gen Zs and all that stuff. It just gets too fragmented. So okay, so you really are educating at the end of the day, because I mean, everybody knows non-alcoholic beer. I mean, that's what non-alcoholic is. So in your case, you're basically saying there are more choices beyond just non-alcoholic beer. But the first thing is to create awareness, right? And then educate. So share with us some of the things that you're doing in order to achieve this.
Yeah, I mean, non-alc beer, even today, still has a pretty maligned history, and it still becomes a butt of people's jokes. There's amazing brands that are really reinventing the category, and brands like Athletic has reinvented people's perception of what non-alc beer can be. And for us, that's really amazing runway. So we want to look at them. We want to follow what they're doing. Our biggest issue, as you mentioned, is we aren't demographic. We're psychographic. We're lifestyle-based product. And our biggest challenge, and one that awareness and education is critical to solve, is you can't easily go into a store today, and it varies by state, obviously, depending on what the legal mandatories are, to go and shop the non-alcoholic category. It's very confusing. As a Whole Foods buyer recently said, they're purchasing all beverages that are not alcoholic, and that includes coffee, tea, energy drinks, and non-alcoholic adult beverages, which is the category we call ourselves, spirit alternatives, wine alternatives, beer alternatives, and for us, cocktail alternatives. They don't really exist as a category unto themselves. And we'll get on to why we chose Amazon as a partner to help educate people, but we're working on all fronts to build education. So we are part of a really new foundation, the ANBA, Adult Non-Alcoholic Beverage Association, led by Marcus Salazar. I mean, that's a group of people, it's about 150 different companies, non-alcoholic beverage creators and founders that have signed up to that company. And we're a proud member as well, because part of our job is education. We're also working with bartenders and really leaning into the industry. The industry itself, as in the bartender and hospitality industry, has been at the forefront of educating consumers. That's why you see placement on menus increasing, whether they're called virgin or mocktails or NA or zero. The language still needs to be honed and finessed. And we come from a world where we want to act, look, taste, feel just as credible as the alcoholic cocktails out there. We're also doing PR outreach. We're working with celebrities where appropriate. We'll be doing traditional advertising if it feels right. But a lot of our platform is going to be through community building. And so those communities we're starting to build. I don't think we touched on this yet, but we're really only 2.5 weeks old. So we're really at the beginning of our journey, but we've had amazing traction because the communities who are building this category are so motivated for better alternatives. It's like I said, it's personal for the drinkers, and it's personal for us to provide better alternatives to people so that they can be invited back into socializing and not feel so ostracized.
Okay, so when we met first, we talked about your experience building Parch and also Amazon. You're not yet live on Amazon. You are in the process of going live. So your experience is extremely valuable for our listeners to understand how one approaches. So obviously, you are creating Amazon as a distribution channel. So this is not about selling on the side. This is serious business that you're looking to establish. And also, there is something here that I want to mention, which is the nature of the undertaking you have. You are a new company, right? You are a new brand and launching a new product. So you have 3 new things. So if you compare that to an existing company, I'm not talking Amazon necessarily, categorically speaking, but on Amazon, it's even more important because you inherit some of the benefits. If you are an existing company with an existing brand, that would be much easier because you would have historical data as a seller. But that's why you need to approach. So you need to approach these 3 new things individually in order to build your performance history, which will really be the driver for whatever momentum you build going forward. So Catherine, share with us some of the things that you are doing in preparation of your launch.
So in preparation for our launch specifically on Amazon or just overall in general?
Well, touch both. Obviously, your overall approach. So
sure.
I want to put something here as part of our discussion. So I asked this question as a standard question for everyone. Tell me some of the initial challenges you have launching on Amazon, because a lot of people create their company operations in a certain way, from creating POs to managing inventory and everything else. And then they say, okay, now let's go on Amazon. And the moment that they go on Amazon, they realize that, wait a minute, everything it needs to be rewired because this is not going to fit in. So that's why it's important for you. So share with us some of the things that you did as a company. And then when you went on to Amazon, what are some initial challenges that you had or things that you felt that you had to go back and tweak?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So one thing that we wanted to do, a goal of ours kind of as a collective prior to our Amazon launch, is to make sure that we just have everything dialed in on our end. Like, we don't want them waiting on us. We've had extensive talks with we use a 3PL fulfillment partner in the Midwest, and we have had copious conversations with them because, you add Amazon, it's not just as simple as adding a sales channel. We all know that. You especially, Nick, know that. It's adding a whole nother set of SOPs. So you have your procedures for even down to like the micro of how you're packing orders, how you're packing a single order. We've got an SOP for DTC. We have an SOP for wholesale B2B orders. And then now we have to add on a third set that's specific to Amazon, whether it's ASINs, whether it's FBA prep, prepping orders to send for fulfillment by Amazon. Like that was a whole nother part of the conversation that we had to have with our 3PL fulfillment partner. So, I mean, that was pretty key in our discussions from jump since I was brought on at Parch, was to not just go in blind and expect that Amazon is going to function exactly how our other sales channels function, because they set themselves apart in the market. and and as a marketplace, that they are different. They're gonna force you into their doing things their way. And I mean, it's just the idea of ASIN, it's like that is absolutely wild to me. It just tells you how incredibly large, how mega Amazon is, that they have their own identifiable number system for products. It's just wild. But we had to just kind of incorporate that immediately into the way that we do things. So it's not just our operations as Parch and our partners, but also how are we going to operate on Amazon as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is this thing about Amazon where they created their own SKU, basically.
Yeah.
Right at the beginning, because when Amazon started, it was books. So I guess with books you have ISBN number, but as soon as they introduced the first character, so you can imagine the vision that they had. They knew that at the time, and everybody's thinking this is just a bookstore, that they knew that they were going to be the Walmart of online retail, and they were going to span across so many categories. And they said, well, we're going to need our own identifier. So it's a big deal. So in your business model, are you going for FBA or FBM model?
That was a definitely a detailed discussion amongst our team and our partners. We also we have brought on a consulting agency. We're working with them, a brand accelerator called Marknology. I know you are very familiar with these companies that function specifically to help brands get on Amazon and succeed on Amazon. That's what Marknology does, and they've been really integral, which has been lovely to get their perspective. They had a very they were in our discussions about FBA versus FBM, and I think, at least it's my opinion, that Amazon has incentivized third-party sellers enough to kind of in a positive way force your hand to fulfill via FBA. They've made that, you can access Prime, many other things. You're getting by with Prime now as well. Like they're really stacking the deck to promote third-party sellers to use FBA almost exclusively. We're going to build and maintain those FBM channels, but not use them unless we have an interruption in inventory or a supply chain issue. So we're going to build those in to be able to essentially toggle to doing fulfillment by merchant, but we're rolling with FBA for the launch for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's the right way to go, especially for new sellers, because there's so many things to learn, and by adding fulfillment operation to your business, to have to learn all those things, and then also to satisfy the Amazon requirements with your performance in fulfillment area, customer service, it's just too much to take on. So Ayla, in terms of consumer education, so how do you go about doing that on the Amazon platform? Because you don't really get to see anybody. So what are some of the things that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think when you mentioned previously that Amazon is a key distributor, it is. But I also, over this journey, it's been a really interesting conversation through the team as well about seeing Amazon as a marketing partner. I mean, I really think 2 years ago when we started this journey, it was the mid-pandemic, we wanted to launch this brand in a very traditional spirits way. We start with the kind of leading edge bars and the bartenders and those stateful accounts to build a brand. And as things changed, D2C was continuing to gain ground, Amazon continuing to be like a default retailer platform that especially Prime members, and myself included, would shop on multiple times a day. It just became one of those mandatories that you can't really launch a brand, especially a CPG brand, without Amazon these days. I just want to back up a tiny bit on things we're doing to be successful before I answer this question. But I don't have an e-commerce background. I have a very brick and mortar and bar world restaurant menus background where you sell bottles of booze. E-commerce was new to me, and I think it's really important to surround yourself by experts and partners who know how to handle that. And that's why we brought on Catherine. And Catherine's been amazing. And we want to bring on people who can just really bring their expertise to the fore and run with it. And so Catherine's our director of e-commerce, and she's wonderful. At the same time, we also brought on an agency, as Catherine referenced, because as we went through this conversations with fellow startup, we spoke to a bunch of other founders to learn their difficulty and their kind of roadmap to success. Amazon is an absolute beast with different language, so many different paths to navigate. And, we do need to bring on an expert, and Marknology is our agency to help us navigate in that way. As a marketplace, as a marketing interface to reach those consumers, I think there's three things really that we're looking at. One, as I mentioned in the upfront, this consumer is not typographed, like we can't segment them by demographic traditionally. They can't shop our product traditionally. And so Amazon, with its 170 million Prime members, with the enormous reach that it has, it allows us to reach people across the US who are shopping by Google search terms in the Amazon search bar. We have data on what they're looking for, what our competitors are offering, and we can really present ourselves as we would at a shelf in a grocery store, but through the virtual medium of shopping online, shopping through cell phone. And the way we appear is critical. We have to build our brand story, our brand world through the pages of Amazon. And we love some of the benchmarks out there that are doing gorgeous jobs. We currently will just be listed as a product ASIN until we get our storefront up and running, which I think is based on credibility and a couple of other checks and balances behind the scenes, like early orders. But the view we have is that our world on Amazon will look like our world in Instagram, will look like our world on our website, will look like our world in store when we do samplings. And it is equally as important as all those other elements. That's not necessarily where I started thinking about Amazon 2 years ago, but it's absolutely where I am today.
Can you tell she's in marketing, Nick? Just like creating a digital
absolutely.
Yeah.
That is what I was just about to say, because you kind of, first of all, I see and hear this separation between marketing people and then online marketing people, where marketing people say, well, I don't really understand that world. And then at the same time, online marketing people, they're all about numbers and they don't understand the big picture. So I think both sides discount themselves very much. But I can tell you this, without the marketing approach, online marketing doesn't work. So, and I give you an example. So when I start working with clients, of course, the first thing we do is we start building the listings, and the listings, you have title and the bullets for each listing. Key. You have to have the right keywords and everything else. So you have to know that. So what happens is, so I have a template. I build a lot of templates to make things easy. So I have a template to do all this, to gather all the research data and then start assembling. So I put it on the table, or I put it on the desktop. And then I say, okay, go to this tab. It has like 3-4 tabs. They go to this tab. So they go to the tab, and the tab is titled definitions. And you know what's on that tab? Define your audience, primary audience, secondary audience. And they start telling me, well, the people between the ages of 25. And I said, no. That's not who I'm talking about. So the first one is primary audience and secondary audience. And then what is the product? What are you selling? And then your competitive advantages. What makes you competitive? So there's all these different things. And then at some point they say, what is this about? We're not talking keywords. We're not talking anything. So I said, what happens is when your approach is from keyword standpoint, you are missing the big picture. I want to know why I should buy your product. I want to know what it is that you're selling. If we have that, if you like, umbrella over the work that we're going to do, we have an understanding of the big picture. And then we can dissect that into the keywords and the search volumes and kind of number of competitors and all that stuff. And then we can decide, okay, this is what is best to be in the title. this is what's best to be in the bullet. So I'm trying to make your case, Ayla. Without marketing, the rest doesn't work.
Well, it's funny because I've just been through our first SEO proof on our 2 product listings. And, it's not traditional marketing, but it's their approach to marketing. And I think it's really important to understand. And my whole background really is consumers and innovation. I've created product based on consumer understanding. I've spoken to thousands of consumers over the US and in Europe around drinking occasions. So I always try and put myself in their frame of mind of what they're looking for. But you've also got to take into account the SEO terms that the algorithm is playing into. And so when you first write something as copy or marketing copy, it's very nice. It's exactly on brand. And then when I was working with our kind of consultants in the Amazon space, they'd give it back to me and it wouldn't quite be on brand, but it would be on the Amazon brand. It would be optimized for their search engine, which is completely correct. But there were certain words that for me were not right for our brand. I'll give you an example. Mocktail. Mocktail is not a word that we like to use for our brand because we don't believe it's as elevated as a cocktail. We think it's the first generation of virgin cocktails. Virgin is another word we don't like to use in our brand. We prefer non-alcoholic cocktails. But mocktails kept coming up as like the number 1 search term for this category, a category that's still not very well defined. And so I acquiesced and I was like, okay, we'll use mocktail. But there's just, it's really understanding through the search bar what people are looking for, occasion as well, what they're searching for the occasion, flavor profiles that are appealing to them, and really unpicking the key benefit of your product. We have adaptogens in our product, still regionally very not well understood, regionally very specific. So certain parts of the US or certain cities, even certain demos within cities are understanding adaptogens, so much more kind of edgy wellness leading markets, but it's not a mainstream term across the US yet. So it'll be really interesting, and I'm really excited to see the data we get back from users, where they're coming from, how they're finding our product, what they're cross-shopping with our product, and obviously the reviews. I mean, we don't see our customer, like you said, but we have access to so many people, and each of those people is a different narrative. And I'm really open. I mean, we're having these conversations on our Instagram account now with vendors, retailers, and individual customers. And I'm hoping we'll be able to start that conversation with people through Amazon and the review part of that service as well.
So, Catherine, share with us some of the things that you've done that are exclusive to brand owners on Amazon, some of the programs that you decided to participate in.
So we haven't really gotten that far quite yet, as far as launching on Amazon and really getting into those different niche markets. We haven't really gotten there. And I mean, we're definitely excited for that. And echoing Ayla, I'm beyond amped to get customer feedback, to get store owner feedback, to get out in these communities and get out in the NA specific bottle shops and sober happy hours and things like that, and just really talk to people and hear what they say. I know what I think of our product. I know what our team thinks of our product. But I haven't gotten much real customer feedback, and I'm really excited to do that and hear those stories. I think that's going to be, I'm hopeful that's going to be reflected in our Amazon reviews. I mean, I'm going to lean heavily on customer feedback that's left in a digital manner as well. So we're going to be sifting through that because that is the nature of e-commerce. Is you're not, I was a bartender 100 years ago, it feels, and it's, you have to find a way to bridge that gap between handing someone a drink and watching them take their first sip and watching them close their eyes and, watching them really experience this thing that you've handcrafted for them versus how do you possibly translate that to a digital experience, where you're not seeing them opening the box. You're not seeing them pop these cans in the fridge or mix up a cocktail later in the day. Like we're not getting that window into their experience like that. So I am looking forward to finding ways to bridge that gap, but we're not quite there yet.
So there are some things that you can do, and in fact, you must do as a brand before you start selling. This is in preparation of your operations, your seller account. So there is something called brand registry.
Sure.
Brand registry is, again, going way back to the beginning. Beginning is not like the beginning of Amazon, because there was no such thing as private label selling. That started in the last, I guess, 10 years or so. So Amazon came up with the idea that they are going to revolutionize the online retail business in a way that they will basically collapse the supply chain system,
Sure.
where they get the manufacturer directly selling to the consumer. Now, that achieves two things. First of all, it puts the seller in a place where they care for the quality of the product that is being sold, because it's theirs. And at the same time, it ensures that the customer receives the highest quality product, because it's coming directly from the manufacturer, at the most competitive price. So that was the business model. Of course, it's impossible to get rid of the supply chain altogether, but nevertheless, look at the past 10 years, how it progressed. So it's already collapsing. So, but that comes with challenges, and one of them is intellectual property.
Sure.
So if you are selling a brand and you don't want somebody else copying your brand and then selling the same product, so there is a legal authority called U.S. Patent and Trademark Office that
Sure.
has the registration. So they said, no, we're going to create our own patent and trademark office because it is our backyard. Amazon Marketplace is our backyard. We have to be the enforcer. And in order to be the enforcer, we have to be able to differentiate between someone who owns the brand versus someone who just sells it.
Sure.
And that's what brand registry is. So what you need to do is you need to get on Amazon brand registry as a brand owner. And of course, in order for them to say, okay, we recognize you as a brand owner, they had to have the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office application in place.
Sure.
About 3 months ago, you needed to have your trademark completed. So you would have to own the trademark. But now they changed that. All you need is just the serial number of your application. And with that, you can apply Amazon brand registry, and they will then invite you into brand registry, and that will open up a lot of opportunities. So let me tell you what those opportunities are. As a brand registered seller, you get to have all the analytics of the searches and, what is being searched, and then what is being clicked. And then, of course, from that point on, you can see what is being purchased, because there's a difference. Somebody comes, does a search. So, Ayla, you mentioned, mocktail. Okay, well, how many people are searching it, and what are they doing after search? Are they actually, you show up, you can be paying high price for bidding on that keyword, and you put it in your title, and then suddenly, wouldn't you want to know that it's actually not doing anything for you? So all these things, they are brand analytics, they open up. In addition, there is a program it's actually two programs, they work together. One of them is called Amazon Attribution. So when you do this, you're going to advertise on Amazon Marketplace platform, paid campaign, PPC campaign on Amazon. So basically, you're trying to get Amazon buyers who are already on Amazon to come to your listing. And you bid on the keywords and everything else. But you also advertise on Facebook, you advertise on Google, and then drive them directly to your listing. So now, don't you want to know what is coming from Google, what's coming from Facebook versus what's coming from internally on Amazon? So this is tracked by something called Amazon Attribution, but there is a specific way to set that up. Now, if you set it up that way, by the way, only available to brand owners. So if you set it up, now you qualify to enroll in a program called Brand Referral Bonus Program. What that does is Amazon basically says to brand owners, only brand owners, because you are advertising outside Amazon and you're bringing external traffic to Amazon, that's a good thing for us, because if you just advertise on Amazon, you are already getting the people who are there. But when you bring external traffic, they say, well, we are going to reward you. And you know what that reward looks like? Ayla, you will like this one very much. Let's say you advertise on Google and you generated $100,000 in sales. They pay you back 10% of it.
Wonderful.
I say 10%. That's not like fixed. It's different for every category. And also they have certain price points, like it's a lower percentage if it's low ticket items. If it's higher ticket items, the higher doesn't mean like hundreds of dollars. It's fairly still 2-digit, low 2-digit. It's different for different categories. But at the end of the day, if you spend money on advertising outside Amazon and you bring them to your listing, sales that you generate, you get a percentage of it back credited to your seller account. These are all things that you set up before you do anything. And in addition, they have things like A+ content in your case, very important. A+ content is indexed by Google. Plus, you get to have videos. Only brand owners can upload. So there are so many things. You need to really put these things in place before you can start, putting the listings up and sending inventory or anything like that. Reviews are the hardest part, because that's the chicken and egg. Reviews come from orders. Orders are placed with listings that have reviews. So that's the initial challenge, where you're going to have to spend money with your advertising efforts. And then there are certain programs where you incentivize people to buy, and there's different ways so that you can generate orders. But your launch is key. I always say this: you get to have launch only once. And once you do the launch, you start to build historical data. And that historical data is part of the Amazon algorithm. And if you don't do the launch right, your first 2 weeks are key. Then you will be fighting against your moving average, because you've built up already poor performance in the first 2 weeks. Then after that, doesn't matter how much you clean up your act, you still have to compensate for that, poor performance data. So these are all things. So it's almost like a, chaos starts as soon as you launch. But if you do it right, then within few weeks, you end up on page 1 for the keywords that you targeted, that you thought would be best. And then, whatever you thought, you will see. Actually, it was, and of course, having those brand analytics and everything else will help. So it's there's quite a bit of work to do, but that's the fun part.
And we set ourselves up with a key design partner built into our company. So we've got, it's a very graphically led brand and brand world, and we have a lot of assets that we want to share with the community and with buyers to build that kind of marketing experience. And so we're currently working through customizing images, customizing content to bring, Amazon exclusive content that would live on that page, that would be different from Instagram, different from Facebook, but they make sense in a more transactional environment, yet feel exciting and premium and really respectful to the customer who's shopping this category.
Well, I'm going to give you a little bit of a different perspective. So Amazon exclusive content may work, but it may actually work against you in some cases, because people like familiarity. So if they see something if you have text, that's a different story. But if it's visual, you want that uniformity, because people will see things. And then if it's a different item, different picture, then they're not going to know it was, because you know how it is. People have the attention problem these days, that clicking around all the time. So that uniform, that, basically streamline your creatives in a way that this is what we're going with. Plus, it gives you another opportunity. I'm a big data person, and we have a rule, and the rule is make sure that you have the minimum number of variables you're working with. So when you have multiple variables, it's very hard. So if you have one set of creatives, then you simply let them do their thing for a week or so, and then change one in that set, then another week, and then change again another. So even though you are doing fairly limited, you still have different circumstances, different season, you still have no control over it, but at least it reduces the amount of confusion you may have. So that's why I say, be careful with what you're using. Make sure that people will recognize exactly, and they'll know that this is what it was. Something to keep in mind. So, so Catherine, tell us about the team. So what does it take to make it big on Amazon? So you are just getting ready. So it's even more of an issue for you, because you are not only looking at, okay, what are the positions, but also how do I find those people? So give us some of the tips.
Yeah. So anyone listening that has gotten their feet wet in startups, whether it's CPG or another sector, it's kind of like building the bike while you're riding the bike, or riding the bike while you're building the bike. That's just kind of at least what I found to be just the nature of startups. There's a level of chaos that is it just exists, and some people thrive on it, and some people crumble and run away. They don't like it, and I like it. Isla obviously likes it. And our team members that Isla and her co-founder Rudy have brought together and have built really seem to thrive on that chaos together. So I think something, and you correct me for sure if I'm not on the money here, Nick, I think that something that will hopefully bring us success on Amazon is this. One of the similar things that is currently bringing us success now, and that's having really clearly defined roles. We are a remote first team. We're a completely remote team, and we work asynchronously across the United States and Canada. So communication, clear, effective, timely communication has been really important for us since the start. And I've only been with Parch for going on 7 months now, so I can't even speak back to the origin story, but I would imagine that it was similar then. Just really clear communication and letting people know your expectations of them, making sure their expectations of you, having clearly defined roles. Who does this act belong to? Who owns this? Are we defining KPIs? Are we not? Does the whole team have universal KPIs, or do we each individual person have their own? So I feel like getting all of that out in the open and everyone being in agreement on what their role is and that just comes back to like foundational communication. So I'm really hopeful that is going to help us out because just the nature of working remotely in different time zones, and in some cases in different countries, we wouldn't be able to function if we weren't good communicators already. So I'm hoping that'll translate into some Amazon success as well.
So I had another guest, and we opened with what you're just talking about in terms of being in a remote environment. And his strength was really culture, build a culture in the company. Yeah. So Isla, do you have that approach? Do you put a premium on culture? And if so, share with us some of the things that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as Catherine was talking, it's been really critical for myself and my co-founder, really, just to hire awesome, good, talented people and give them the power and freedom to really do what they do. So it really is about delegation. It's about respect. It's about flexible working. It's about letting people grow. And it's really about presenting vulnerability. I will be very candid. Catherine knows this. I am very open, transparent. I think communication is critical. If I don't know something, I will say it. I think acting vulnerably, bringing people to the table in our virtual meeting space and having open, candid conversations, giving people the power to stretch their role. I think this is all about building an exciting team of good people who want to do great work in a category that is actually built on doing good, not only inherently with the ingredients we're putting in and ethanol that we're taking out, but also serving good in society. And so the people who are drawn to this, and I mean, frankly, I met Catherine through the LinkedIn hire of about 250 people that I met virtually, spoke to about half of them on email or actually in full communication. And I will end up going with my gut as well as someone's experience. But if I like someone and I want to work with them, I don't care where they're based. We just all need to be kind of working in the same direction. And that's the culture. The culture is letting people's unique individuality and their talent and giving them the freedom to do what they want to do to make this a successful brand.
Yeah. So let me tell you something that I heard from this previous guest. He said that because it's remote, they are also 100% remote, and communication is key for them also. And he said right from the get-go, we made a rule in the company that whenever we have a meeting, a conversation, one-on-one or group on any one of these collaboration tools, always, without exception, video on, never audio only. So he brought this up. Now, we had talked, of course, before, but I never really heard him say that. So as soon as he mentioned it, and he said, video always, no exception. And I said to him, have you heard of the 7% rule? It's also called Mehrabian. There was a psychologist called Dr. Mehrabian. So it's called 7% rule. He said, no, what is that? And I said, this psychologist studied, and he came to the determination after his studies and case studies, so many, between human beings, 7% of the message that human beings are trying to communicate to each other is carried by the words that they use. Just the words that you pick and you send it to the other person, 7% gets the message across. Then you have 38% if those words are spoken words. In other words, you add voice. Now you are up to 45, right? So if you use the perfect words and you have a diverse vocabulary and you do a good job constructing those sentences and send the email, they only get 7% of the message. And if you talk to them on the phone, now it's up to 45. 55% is in the body language. So when I put it like that, he said, well, I've never heard it like that, but it makes total sense because I can say something to you and you don't see me, and all you have is the tone of my voice. I may be actually speaking, some people speak with a fairly monotonous tone, right? It happens. But they may be smiling while they say it. But if you don't see them, it may come across a little bit too hard. So things like that. So that's, I thought that, wow, we read about, especially if you read stuff and that's, wow, well, that's interesting. But it was another to actually see a company put it to use, and they made it a policy. So
that's interesting because we have the opposite policy, because I appreciate that people are doing so many things at once. And that in our work, most of our employees are part-time or contracting, and everyone is really busy. So depending on the content of the conversation, I don't think I've ever had a meeting where it's like an all hands mandated video, but there could be occasions for sure. Mostly, I will absolutely, and this is in part as well as in other environments, do not feel the need to put on a video. And I always have so many people who are like, "Oh, I'm sorry," they immediately apologize if they're not on video. And I know that I'm very busy as a mom of 3, running Parch, doing many other things. We all have to fit as much into our limited day as we can. So I never want people to feel that they have to put the video on, show that they're in work mode, because if it's stuff they can do on Slack, we do a lot of work on Slack. People are very efficient, and that is back to the hiring. Hire good people, good, honest people who get the work done. And if they're not that great, then they'll move on, or it just won't work out. But I want to trust in people. I want to give them the freedom to respect that they have many other things going on in their world. And on important meetings, there would be times to have everyone video on, but I take a slightly different approach.
Yeah. I mean, look, this is at the end of the day about communication. So, my rule is don't have difficult conversations on the phone or via email. Always in person or on video. A video these days is as close to in person. So, because difficult conversations are difficult already, and then people need to get exactly what you're saying in every possible way. So, different things, different people. So what I want to learn is, Catherine, let's start with you. So obviously you are in the forefront of the operation. This is going to be your show, right? So why do you want to be in a space like that? Where is that interest coming from?
E-commerce operations or specifically in the NA space?
It's in the front line of the operation. E-commerce
just the front, in the front of house. I actually started kind of my journey in e-commerce and in business in general. This was not the plan, as so many people say. I feel like it's very rare for someone to say, "Oh yeah, I wanted to do this when I was in high school, and I've gotten to this point," regardless of the industry that they land in. But I've definitely landed in this one. I kind of started that journey in warehousing, inventory, logistics, supply chain. So it was kind of a natural. I got pushed into account management for quite some time. So I got to see that side of things. So I feel like if you picture a warehouse, like I kind of have bounced around the majority of it, and I was really drawn to, you can mitigate a lot of problems. You can make the front of house, so to speak. You can make the account managers, you can make their job a lot easier with efficient, effective operations. And you can really knock out. I found myself frustrated when I was on the account side, seeing a problem and saying, why didn't we see that before? Just naturally being critical, because you're not the one in the driver's seat, but being affected by various issues and just thinking that repeatedly. Why did we not see that coming? Why did the numbers, whether it was an inventory issue or personnel, ERP issue, resource planning, why did we not see that, we had 8 people out over Memorial Day weekend, something that just seemed fairly obvious when you're not the one having to drink from the fire hose that is operations. And I kind of put myself back in the back of house in a very intentional way. I like e-commerce, but I really like the operational side of it. I think you can mitigate a lot of account, client management, customer service, a lot of those issues by being really effective and intentional and aware on the ops side. So that's kind of where I found myself.
So is it because you are able to solve problems and make an impact? Is that what appeals to you?
That definitely appeals. I think that appeals in my professional and personal life, trying to make an impact. But I just think efficiencies are interesting. They're like little mini puzzles, and on the ops side, especially in e-commerce, in a, dare I say, post-pandemic world. I know we're not quite there yet, but we're hopefully moving in that direction. It is chaotic, and you can make an impact. You can make other people's day easier, other people's life easier, and you can make your clients very happy. If you're the service provider, say at a fulfillment 3PL where I spent a few years of my time, you can make your clients happy by running an effective, tight ship. But I kind of beat a dead horse with that. I will go back to communication over and over and over again, just like transparency and not really having much of a hierarchy, just kind of having like an open platform for conversation. Like I've always, anytime I found myself, whether I was at kind of the top of the operational totem pole or at the bottom, I want to hear everybody's voice, like I want to hear that's how you find the problems the quickest.
Well, I mean, communication is key. So, Isla, where is your interest for innovation coming from? How did that come about? You don't go to school for it. I mean, you are born with it, I guess. Where did
it's funny because what I did study was sociology and business, and I never really knew of innovation in the capacity that I do it now and have done it over my career. But when I look back at understanding society and how systems work and how people interact, and then businesses and the idea of building brand, I am fascinated with the psychology of human brand desire and solving consumer needs. And that really is what innovation is at the end of the day. It's finding opportunities to provide better solutions to consumers. And, for many years, it was just about creating different flavors or even creating flavors to start with of a spirit that was whiskey, flavored whiskey was shocking. And now is the norm and still growing. But to create real solutions, this is a societal solution that we're really looking at providing. It's providing people who, like I've said many times, have been left out of the social conversation. But more than that, the biggest opportunity is really providing more mindful consumption options to people. So we are for people who drink alcohol and for people who don't drink alcohol. And I like to say we're for people who just want to drink it in a more balanced way. So you can drink Parch alongside full alcoholic products as your third alternative to a margarita. You can drink it if you don't drink alcohol at all. It's vegan, gluten-free, all plant-based. And then instead of ethanol, which has been very, linked to detrimental health impacts, we use adaptogens, which are only helpful and have proof in ancient medicine. So we want to really open up how people perceive drinking. When someone says they want to go for a drink, it's automatically presumed it's alcoholic. And that's not the way we believe the world is moving to. Just as oat milk in your latte or an Impossible Burger is kind of on the menu of the main fast food restaurants, we want Parch to be on the main menus of high scale restaurants, hotels, bars, and in people's homes through Amazon.
Yeah, that's great. So tell us how people can reach you.
The best two ways are really through our Instagram page at Drink Parch. You can message us there. Those messages go directly to me, and we will respond. We always do. Or our website, which is www.drinkparch.com, and just contact us. Availability on the website. But we're currently in 21 Foxtrot stores across DC, Dallas, and the Chicago region. We're soon to be available in the Boisson stores in the New York area. We just got listed with Spirited Away. So this is an entirely new retail channel of non-alcoholic liquor stores, which when I say to my parents, they're like, what is the point of a non-alcoholic liquor store? It's a completely new concept, and it only works in some states. Hopefully it'll work in all, but in New York State where I live, it is illegal to sell a non-alcoholic products in the same store as spirits and wine. So they have to create an entirely new brick and mortar concept. And that's where a lot of this has come from, as well as menu placement for virgin, non-alc, zero-proof cocktails. I think what we're excited to see is where athletic beer and owls and all those great non-alcoholic beers are moving, kind of like zero. And non-alc wine you see is growing, and non-alc spirits and cocktails would be the third category it's already gaining momentum and soon shelf space.
Great. So, Catherine, also you can be reached through the website, or I believe also both of you are on LinkedIn as well, right?
That's correct.
We're both on LinkedIn. That's right.
Great. Okay. So we will obviously put your contact information for both of you on our website as well as on YouTube, so people can reach out through that. but I just wanted you to give it out because if, you want to attract all the people to join the team. So hopefully they'll reach out. So thank you, ladies. This was great. And I wish you a lot of luck. You're in a great space. And I have no doubt you'll do very well because they're knowledgeable and the right attitude will definitely get you there. So thank you again.
Thank you, Nick. It was a real honor to be chatting with you today.
Thanks for having us, Nick. We appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Catherine. This brings us to the end of another episode, and I'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Be sure and subscribe, rate, and review our show. And be sure and share an episode with a friend. And thank you so much for being with us today. We'll see you next week here on Amazon Legends.